Get ready for an incredible episode of the Growth Leaders podcast. Today, we're thrilled to welcome a true visionary, James Foster, CEO of ZPN Energy and founder of superhub.biz. With over 20 years of experience driving innovation in EV technology, digital marketing, and e-commerce, James has been at the forefront of transforming industries, from leading the UK's fastest growing EV charging company to building a team of marketing rockstars. His journey is packed with powerful insights. Tune in as we dive into his story of resilience, growth, and leadership. You won't want to miss this one. Welcome, James. I'm just fine, and great having you on the Growth Leaders podcast. And today we're going to talk quite a lot about leadership. Clearly, you have gained that from the companies. You're not only CEO of ZPN Energy, but also of the Superhub team, a digital genius group. But then you're involved as a startup specialist, management consultant, and coach. James, what drives you?
Boredom is generally what drives me. If you speak to my wife, she will tell you that I don't sit still. So I'm like a business magpie. Probably the best way of describing me is I'm always looking to do something interesting, whatever's kicking around, I'm there. So I always like to be doing something interesting. It's the main thing.
So what's your leadership philosophy? And is it the same going into a technology company and being with some creative geniuses around you?
I always reference myself as being a terrible manager. And the reason I'm a terrible manager is I dislike micromanaging things. So what I try to do is give every member of staff, everyone in the team, give them their own authority and say, you're the architect of your own destiny. So not everyone can cope with that. I get that. Like some people need more nurturing than others and some need more direction. But fundamentally, I'm not a terribly good manager because I just don't like deep.
And I think what you're really looking into here is being a manager and being a leader. And this is really the question about the leadership as such. And what you tell me here is really about the distribution of power or the delegation of responsibility and possibly accountability.
Yeah, I see a lot of people. The word I hate the most in business is entrepreneur. And the second word I hate the most, despite being the CEO of an energy company, is sustainability. Because they're both words that I consider are a bit of a fraud, if that makes sense. So the reason I don't like the word the word entrepreneur is it's always used by people that aren't really entrepreneurs. So you see people calling themselves entrepreneurs who work for companies like EY, which are probably the least entrepreneurial company on earth. They just happen to be around people that take all the risks. And, aside from it being a French word, it's too easy to call yourself something you don't really do, if that makes sense. And then sustainability is the other word I hate. So I constantly up against people in the EV renewables market, and you always get a sustainability manager, and they're basically a business prevention manager, and they come with a lot of institutional bias that comes with that whole sector. It's like saying, if you hear people like Elon Musk and people like that talking, and whether you like these people or not is kind of irrelevant, but sustainability is always used as a crutch or as a stick. And when what you're talking about is a lack of efficiency, and we're only here for a limited period of time. We've been here less time than the dinosaurs have been dead. So fundamentally, we need to look after where we live, right? And that's not sustainability, that's lack of efficiency. And actually, by focusing on making stuff better or cleaner or whatever is a great thing. And this is why sometimes you get into a debate with the kind of the political people who would argue that there's too many billionaires and, you know, all the rest of it. It's like saying there's not enough geniuses. Well, or there's too many geniuses. You know, ultimately we need more geniuses and more billionaires because essentially they drive what goes on. I'm not a billionaire, but you know, and I don't aim to be one, but fundamentally it's about being efficient. And if you can be efficient, you can do a lot more. And that's one of the reasons why I walk into most conferences and then if I ever speak, if you ever hear me speak, the first words out of my mouth is I hate the word sustainability.
Yeah.
And it's a
But
fraud.
that means also you have a real pragmatic approach to, I mean, the different topics here. I mean, it's something which needs to be solved, and a sustainability issue here could mean a lot of terms in order
Yeah.
to get things fixed in a better way than we do today. So,
You know, and
okay.
even if you look at like marketing, you know, like we're involved, my superhub is involved in digital marketing, and if you look at our homepage, it says cut something along the lines of cut the bullshit. You know, the reality is in marketing is full of people that are absolutely full of it. You know, it doesn't matter where it comes from, and they're all selling. You know, 50% of what's sold in marketing is snake oil, and you know, I stick myself out there. There's very few real people doing real things. You know, and the best way to describe marketing, my simple thing I say to my team all the time is marketing is like running a race. And if you look at people in the Olympics and they're running a race, do you really think they're just running in a circle? Is that the only thing they're doing? Of course they're not. And if you ask what are the things you can do to win a race, they involve everything from cheating to barging to, you know, marginal gains around performance and fitness and technique and all those sorts of things. And marketing is exactly the same. It's about doing more, doing it better, and you know, the dirty stuff gets involved in marketing an awful lot, but no one talks about it. But fundamentally, if you just do more and do it now, you generally get results.
So if we look then into how you apply strategies, how you foster the innovation and collaboration within the two diverse teams, because when I look into ZPN Energy and what you're doing there, guys, it is really impressive. So how do you foster that innovation and collaboration within the teams?
It's simple, really. So no business is anything other than a dictatorship. At the end of the day, there's someone at the top and there is a top-down strategy, right? So my strategy on both is very similar. So one is that if you're gonna do anything, you need to be innovative enough, but without necessarily being a pioneer. You know, the with ZPN used to be called Zapinamo, and originally the original founders had this great ideas, and they were about 10 years ahead of anyone else in the market. And what we've managed to do within that 10-year period is to distill down to work out which bits of the tech actually are important. So the one thing within EV charging is a good thing. There are many people out there, including politicians, who are selling numbers of chargers rather than quality of charging. So what you find is that if you go and charge your car, you generally have a terrible experience. Is a good example. The government came out with this target of 300,000 chargers, and they focused on thinking that because cars are stationary for 95% of the time, therefore that's when they would charge. But that's a complete load of cobblers, because actually when you need to charge your car is when you're moving, when you're going somewhere. You don't charge your car when it's parked, because obviously it's fully charged, right? So the challenge is, particularly within public charging, is actually having charging that works for the individual in the same way that it's available on demand. And what you found is everyone in our market has gone out, all the charge point operators have gone out, bought up all the connections, and then ended up putting too many chargers on them, and then found that all the chargers are not actually where people want them. So the ZPN technology has been about give people charge where they need it. It's not a really complicated thing, which means distributed energy. So with ZPN, the strategy is how do we make that better and how do we make that faster? So, for example, one of the things that we came up with the concept was using a particular type of battery chemistry so that we could charge and discharge the batteries that sit behind our chargers faster and quicker and turn them over. So if you do that, you end up needing smaller batteries. And if you look at grid scale batteries within the grid, everyone's focused on using lithium ferrous phosphate batteries, which sounds like a very technical thing. They're the same thing you find in your mobile phone, and all they're called lithium ion batteries. That's what they are. When in reality, you could use half as much battery by using a different chemistry. But because everyone is obsessed with price rather than efficiency, they go for lithium ion as opposed to going for something like lithium titanate. And you can get a much more efficient process if you use different chemistries and different approaches.
But I don't think it's there as of yet, because there's only the lithium dialogue ongoing.
There's lots of people in this market, but what you find is, and the biggest headache I have running ZPN is that, I've got 99% of the market saying one thing because they've all been biased towards one strategy, and we are pushing the boundaries of something different. So, for example, simple things. So if you take an EV charger generally has the cable on the outside of the machine, which makes it very difficult for disabled people to use them. I think that's undemocratic, not from a political point of view. I just think that if you're disabled, you should have the same access to stuff that within reason that the rest of us get. We shouldn't deliberately make stuff difficult for people. So, but the almost entire market for EV charging has got cables mounted on the outside that you physically have to lift, and they're heavy. At ZPN, we took a view very early on that the cable needed to be retractable, which then halved the weight of the cable principally for people with disabilities, but it also has the spin-off benefit. You can't steal them because they're inside the machine. And there's a big problem with people going around stealing EV charging cables because they are full of copper, and copper's a valuable
But it sounds like you actually cross your two entities, which you now run on a daily basis in your thinking here. Actually finding what is the real unique pieces and actually have your team working on that to get a unique spot in the market also. Because marketing must be very much around that, identifying that, which is also the difficult stuff to do.
Yeah, but the thing with marketing is you get drowned out. So the thing I'm constantly saying to the superhub boys and almost any of our clients as well is that marketing is a running race, right? I can give you an example. So, Dave, a couple of days ago, I'm having some roofing work, and I needed to buy this horrible sticky substance that they apply to the roof that allegedly stops it leaking, right? So I did a Google search for the particular brand, and I actually counted it to make a point to the team downstairs that there was 600 pages of links to that particular product, right? And on the first 10 pages of Google, there were about 25 suppliers. We're all with web shops for that particular product and other things. So back then you might have had 5 competitors.
Yeah.
Right now you're talking about having 25 or 50 competitors for one particular product. The competition, the internet has provided a staggering amount of competition.
And that takes me to, you've navigated both private and professional challenges. So what were some of the most difficult moments in your career? And how did you handle these? Because there has to be some backslashes over the years.
Oh, absolutely. To be fair, most of my backslashes, if you like, have been caused by personal related stuff. Um, so I had a very nasty incident in the family courts with some children I have with an ex of mine, and it caused all manner of damage to my business at the time. And I've gone from the highs and lows of that all the way through.
That's
And when I say
interesting.
fix, that could
Mm,
mean hitting
mm,
it with a hammer type of fix, or it could be literally um, uh, standing in a court, having a stand-up row with a high court judge
mm.
about um, a barrister in this is in the Royal Courts of Justice, about a barrister entirely fabricating evidence to suit his client's outcome. Now,
Incredible.
most people wouldn't have the balls to stand up and do that. And the judge said to me, "I'm going to hold you in contempt." And I said to him, "Okay, do what you got to do." And he was like, "What?" And, it might sound incredibly arrogant, but I basically just stood my ground and said, hold me in contempt. Because as soon as you hold me in contempt, I get to stand in a court with a jury. And how will the barrister who's lied through his teeth, and your client, which from a major law firm, has lied through its teeth in this court,
Mm,
how will that look to the public in a public gallery, in a public space? Do you not think a journalist will walk in and sit in the gallery and then report on it?
mm.
And the judge sort of looked at me and was like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I'm saying I've got more power than you. And he was like, you can't tell me what to do. And I just said, hold me in contempt then, please.
Mm.
And
And what
there's
happened?
not many people in business that would risk a criminal trial
No,
to
of
stand
course.
up for the rights of what was right in that
Mm,
circumstance. And that was the challenge, is that in that instance, the judge was basically giving a lawyer
mm,
the benefit of the doubt because he couldn't find him in contempt, because it would cause far bigger problems for his process. And you just have to
yes.
remember that all business is about process. It's not about anything. Law is
Mm,
all about process. It's about
mm.
consenting to a process. And that is, when you talk about backslashes, I challenge anyone to have been in that environment. And then off the back of that, because I fought off that case, part of that case had an insolvency practitioners involved in it. And off the back of that, I
Mm.
became an expert witness in another case where the same IPs and insolvency practitioners were doing the same thing again. And it was quite high
Incredible.
profile. It was in motorsport. I can't say what it was because I'm
Mm.
subject to an NDA, but fundamentally,
Yeah.
it was a very interesting second conversation with a judge about the behaviour of the same people.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
needless to say, it got kicked out that second time round. But being through that and supporting small business and being in that space and doing it yourself and being willing to
Mm.
take that risk. We've all heard the
That's super
expression, he who
interesting.
takes the most risk, you
Mm.
know.
So how do you unwind and recharge when you're, getting home or
Well,
getting on vacation or
unfortunately,
what do you say?
I was just going to say, unfortunately, my superhub office is in the building next door to my house. So trying to escape from it is difficult at times. But, I have a family, I have a Labrador who need
Mm.
walking. So that's, unfortunately, I'm lucky enough to live right on the sea. So I have a beach right in front of my house. I have many, it's,
But you're not a sailor, are you?
I know I was to say I've had a few boats in my life. I've sailed from when I was a kid, and I would happily go sailing, but I just don't have time for it. But yeah, it would be nice to do more boating of some sort. But Although one of the things I have considered is in the local towns where I am, there's a boat club, and it's
Hmm.
like fractional ownership. And I have considered doing it several times, and then that was 2 summers ago that I considered doing it, and I considered it this summer, and now the weather's breaking. I'm like, should I do it now? I might get a discount if I do it now, but
Well,
yeah.
maybe. So,
You
James, we're gonna run into an ending here, and I'm gonna put some rapid fire questions to you. A few here. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
That's a bit rude.
Yeah, it may be, and it depends on what you answer.
Um, well, so so my first, like literally, I'm up through the shower and out, and actually the first thing I do that's not thing is make tea and then feed the stupid Labrador. And he's always pleased to see you. You couldn't have a happier
Mm,
creature to meet you in the morning. He's always pleased to see you in the morning. I can
yeah,
remember actually, it is
yeah,
this will make you laugh. Richard Mason, years ago, the guy who owns Money Supermarkets, this is back in 2000, turns around to me in a meeting and says, well, you know the difference between dogs and your girlfriend? And I was like, no. He said, well, your dog's always pleased to see you when you lock them in the boot of your car for an hour. And I that has stuck with me because it was in that meeting. It was kind of the first time I'd met him, and it was like the most
uh,
inappropriate joke possible at that moment. So, but yeah, my Labrador is always pleased to see me first thing in the morning, mainly because I give him food. So it's
yeah.
quite binary.
Then you too. And the second question was, what's your go-to productivity app or tool you cannot live without?
Do you know, in a weird thing, it's TikTok, which shouldn't be a
Okay.
productivity tool, if that makes sense.
Does it
But
generate ideas?
it's, yeah, it's kind of like what's going on. So, like, every time I open TikTok, I get some random video about something crazy. Like, it will be I don't know, it'll be some person dancing in a street, or, or Katie Hopkins will be in my
Yeah.
feed, or or there'll be something in there that's just random, talking about there'll be something political, or there'll be something, there'll be something kicking around, and uh it it definitely has a grounding effect that you kind of go,
Mm.
that's not how you do that, or that's definitely how you do that, or that's a really good, interesting position. So kind of like podcasts, but it's like, we've
Yeah.
all watched podcasts of
It's-
one sort. One we're doing one now, but
mm.
it's strange. It has
That's
a strange effect, and it's not.
yeah, but
But I
it's
wouldn't
interesting.
describe it. No,
I I could imagine it also gives you some input to your creativity processes when it gets floating around in the head for some time. And yeah,
yeah, no.
that could be possibly used in there. Or
Well, it teaches you, if nothing else, it teaches you to be
yeah,
braver.
yeah, exactly.
There are some people out there who have staggering amounts of following, doing some of the strangest stuff. But it's
Mm,
actually about, you know, within marketing, most marketing directors are shit scared of offending people, right?
mm, yeah,
So, and if you actually look at some of the most successful marketing ever done, it is always the stuff that's either funny, rude, a bit ignorant, whatever it is, it's playing to something that makes us uncomfortable. And it's this prime reason why people love watching
yeah.
stand-up comedians. It's because what
Mm,
makes them uncomfortable. So when I go on TikTok and
exactly.
there's something comes up in my feed, there'll be like some Japanese girl doing some strange dance or something. You just don't look at it and go, like, why am I watching this?
Mm,
There is a anything that makes you uncomfortable is probably a good thing. But in
yeah,
marketing, people are too easy doing the same thing, putting the
yeah.
same crap over and over
And
and
then you
over
don't
again. and expecting a
And you
different
don't get
result.
the reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, what if you could choose someone, historical figure, who would it be to have a good dinner with? Could be present too.
Oh, strangely, it's probably a Formula One driver, and it's probably Kimi Raikkonen, because he
Finnish
literally
guy.
doesn't give a shit what he says. And I think I
Okay.
think he would tell you all kinds of dirt on people. And generally racing drivers are not interesting people. So
Oh, is that a Finnish guy? Is that a Finnish guy?
uh yeah, I think so. I think it's Finnish, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe he wouldn't say a word anyhow because he's
No, no, no,
Finnish.
no. He's literally he's not
Okay.
he's not Mika Hakkinen, who's as dull as you
Uh,
could imagine. Like Finnish people are a bit dull. It has to be said. Look, that sounds cutting, right? But I've been to
until you know
Finland
them.
and Norway, and you
Yeah,
go into bars and there's like 25 people lying on the bar like this. You know,
exactly.
having drunk way too
Uh,
much. But it is yeah. Kimi Raikkonen would probably be I think it'd be a really interesting conversation.
oh, that's great. You know what, James? We are coming to an end, and it's just great having you on the Growth Leaders podcast and
Pleasure.
sharing your insights, thinking, and well, all the other stuff we spoke about here. So thank you so much, James, and wish you the best success in your all the pieces you're working with.
Pleasure. And
Thank you.
hopefully you haven't got bleep too much of what I've said.
Thanks.